We have Well Coach Adam joining us today. See, Adam's here. Hey, Adam.
Hey guys. All right. Nice to see everybody.
Yeah.
Great. Where is everybody calling in from? Like what states are we
Yeah.
in?
Drop it in the chat. Let me
San
pull it.
Diego. Good. I'm actually just north of San Diego. Yeah, I didn't know that either, Cynthia. Dallas,
Long Island, Rhode Island, Georgia,
Mars.
Mars. Very good. There must
Yeah.
be a slight time delay.
Yeah, I don't know. Good connectivity, thanks to Elon. Is that okay to say? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very good. Very good.
Yeah. Okay, if this is the first Q&A you've been to or first Tardus event, um, drop a one in the chat. All right, good.
Okay.
Been to a couple. All right, Darius. Welcome. If you were on a three, if you were on our most recent webinar um, on taxes, drop a three in the chat. I'm curious who's coming from the recent webinar. Oh, good. Right. Nope. Darius says you were not on the webinar. Okay, good. Well, we are representing the Wealth Coach team from Tardus. Myself, I am Tonya Leslie. I'm the manager of the Wealth Coach team at Tardus. This is Adam, my colleague.
Hello. Wonderful to see everybody. I'd be happy to go into my introduction, Tanya, if you want me to start there, or did you want to
Yeah, have
let us
at
know?
it.
Okay, good. So yeah, great to be with everybody. Yeah, I always like to kind of set the stage for how I got started in TARDIS. So the fun thing about it for me was about 4 years ago, I was just like all of you, in the sense that I was basically in a place where my wife and I, we had done lots of different investing. We've invested in apartment complexes and whole life insurance policies. We've done brokerage accounts. Had done 401ks. We were basically at this place in our life where probably no matter where you live, life is getting more expensive. And we were looking at a way of creating passive income because really all of the things that we were doing looked great on paper, but weren't necessarily creating us income now. I like to call it like we had this pot of gold at the end of a rainbow, but none of that was actually coming through our bank account. And so I started doing some research, looking at different companies and ideas of creating passive income. And I have a mentor here in San Diego, and he actually met our CEO Tanisha, and he said, "Hey, have you checked out this company Tardis?" And I actually remember where I was sitting when he told me. I was sitting we were having breakfast in a booth at the Snooze Cafe, and I remember he started explaining to me how the system worked. And for me, I'm like a math guy. And so as soon as I heard a little bit about the system, I was like, you've got to connect me with them. You have to connect me with them. I was very interested right away. So I scheduled my initial call with a wealth coach and heard all about it. I actually dragged my wife along with me. For those of you who are married and maybe your spouses are less interested than you are, you're in good company, because that's how my spouse and I are. But she willingly came along. We actually were on vacation in Sedona, Arizona when I had my first call. And so we spent 2 hours of our vacation having a TARDIS discussion. For me, that was joy. For her, that was not joy. But we had a great experience. Long story less long, we heard about the system. It made great sense to us. And I said to her at that point, we were really looking for her. She's a part-time pediatric nurse. We were looking for her to step back from her job in pediatric nursing and spend more time with our kids versus really what we felt like we were being forced to do, which is have her work more. So we started the journey, and I remember on our walk after that, I said, "Hey, I really think this is going to work. Give it 2 years." Um, and so we spent the next 2 years basically building our income snowball. And over that time, within the first 6 months or so, we saw that the system was really worked. Within 30 days, we had started creating passive income. Within 6 months, it was like this system's going to work. And so, as you'll learn about me over time, I'm an evangelist for things that I believe in, and I super believe in this system. And so I started telling my friends, friends of ours from church, friends from my work, friends from other places, really anybody who was saying to me, "Hey, like, I need another source of income. I need a side hustle, but I can't take on a second job," whatever the case may be. And so as a result of that, we've had like over 20 of our friends that have joined Tardis over the last few years. And it's been really fun to have kind of other people along the journey with us to talk about investments and things of that sort. And in that time, we've now created thousands of dollars of passive income. Um, well, significant thousands of dollars of passive income. The system has been incredible for us. And so almost to the day, 2 years after I had that discussion with my wife, we're almost 4 years in now. I said, we went on that walk and I told her, "Hey, like it's time you can step back from what you're doing and do other things," of which she found great joy in. And so since then, she's been pouring into ministries and other things that she is passionate about and doing less of her W-2 role. So that's been a win for our family. But I've seen this system work for so many different income levels. So we have friends that are, he's a school teacher and she works at the church. They don't have very much cash flow or passive income. It's worked great for them. I have a friend that works at Google, makes a ton of money. Systems work great for them. So what gives me confidence in the system is that I've seen it work at so many different income levels. So fast forward, here we are, 3.5 years later, 4 years later, and several months ago, Tanya and I had a discussion because I kept bugging her as I was referring lots of people over to Tardis, and she said, "Hey, would you be willing to talk to people about Tardis, your experience, and new clients that are getting interested in being on board?" So I said I'd love to do that. So that's kind of my role here at Tardis now. I'm very passionate about the system. Hopefully that comes through, and looking forward to hearing your questions today and really how the system could help you. So that's probably my too long-winded of an introduction, Tanya.
Good job, Adam. Okay, so thank you for sharing, Adam. Adam and I are both clients. I've been a client since 2017. I'll make mine far more brief. I was able to do far more than I imagined with my strategy, reach financial goals, be able to pivot, take a family abroad, and have so much more freedom in life. So I'll keep it in a very small nutshell. But I'm excited to be here again today. We've been loving doing these Q&As. We've been doing these once a month, and it's a great opportunity for you guys to ask your questions. So that's what we're here for today. So please drop your questions if you can in the Q&A. We'll try to answer all of them. They're easier to find in the Q&A than in the chat. If they end up in the chat, we really will try to find them. Okay, but we're going to run through a couple of things. Give us like 10 minutes, some basics, and then we'll have plenty of time for answering questions. All right.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how the system works. So one of the reasons that I have loved this system is that it is very simple. I kind of say that it's linear in the way that it works. Um, and so the system first is patented. So, and if you know anything about patents, it's very difficult to get a patent. And the reason that we have a patent is because of the fact that it's really something that we felt like was so special that we got a patent to do it. And so the system has worked for the company's been around for over 20 years. And I think what makes this system so significant is the idea that you can create passive income spending very little time every month. And you can do that with a specific set of kind of investment criteria with excellent coaching, and have a consistent cash flow that increases over time without you increasing your financial input. And you can purchase those investments at a discount by using leverage. And so we'll talk a little bit more about how that system works as we go through questions. But that system really doesn't exist anywhere else. And that's what makes this system so much more powerful than other systems that I was looking at when I was looking at building passive income initially. And the other thing that I really like to share, at this stage of it is, when you get into this system, as you start, you may think, okay, I have X amount of cash flow, and here's how the system's going to work for me. While the system is linear and it's all based on math, your first year, you're going to learn so many things from your coach that are going to change the way that you augment, look at your cash flow, pay for things. And as a result of that, by your second and third year in the system, you're going to achieve things that many of our clients have achieved things that they never thought were possible. And so, one of the things that I like to reference to clients is that we we have almost a 90% renewal rate of clients year over year. And why is that? It's because of the fact that we're not handing clients a pamphlet and saying, "Hey, good luck, hope that things go well for you down the road." But our clients are with us really until they reach their financial goals because of the fact that they see results. And so this system has been proven. It is powerful. Tonya and I are examples of that, but we've had over 8,000 clients who have also seen the fruits of this system work for them.
Yeah. And simply put, right, don't think of any of this as a replacement retirement fund, because while you're building for those long-term goals, in the meantime, you can access your cash flow. As Adam said, like taking a discount on purchasing investments, purchasing life expenses, necessary required life expenses, or otherwise, family vacation, take your friends on vacation with you. This really does open the door for raising your standard of living this year.
Yes.
Okay, right. To summarize, really, what does the system allow you to do? We take an accumulation methodology timeline, right? That idea of save, delayed gratification. Well, all of those have great aspects to them. Many of us are still living in everyday reality and don't want to wait till we're 65 to travel, to enjoy some of the other aspects of life, or we can do both. Okay, so we take that timeline combined with the coaching, combined with a patented system, a system that you follow every month that works within your parameters and your numbers. And we shrink it down to this. Most of our clients reach their goals it's an average of 7 years, which really is incredible because we work with people that have, $300 a month in cash flow to high net worth investors. We cover the whole spectrum.
Okay, so yeah, so
one.
mastering the cash flow stacking. So when we talk about cash flow stacking, what makes this system so powerful is basically how quickly you're able to continue to replace your investments with larger and larger investments. And so, one of the key parts of this is leverage. So if you think about leverage, one of the terms that you may have heard if you're a Robert Kiyosaki fan is, using other people's money, or OPM, right? And so we think of debt as being bad, but debt and leverage are very different. And if you understand leverage well, it basically means that you're taking a line of credit, a personal line of credit, maybe an insurance policy that you have, and borrowing from that and then being able to make more money somewhere else with that money. And from that perspective, you're not only making what's called an arbitrage, making more money, but you're also using somebody else's money to be able to do that, which is pretty significant. So we'll talk about one of the things that's pretty significant to this strategy is the leverage principles. The other part of that's really important is understanding the timing. So if you think about this, if I explained it to you on an elevator, you'd say, oh, well, maybe I can just do that myself. It sounds pretty easy. I could just start stacking investments. I could pick a number. And there is a very significant math that goes into actually how you enact this strategy. And there's, depending upon your budget and cash flows and cash flowing in, cash flowing out, the strategies will change significantly as well. And so you want to make sure that you actually have the perfect amount of leverage at the perfect time to make your investments and then continue to reinvest as you grow. And one of the things I'll tell you from my own personal experience is that when I started, our goal, our freedom date was 2042. Based on the plan that we had. The things that I learned from my coach and basically some of these timing strategies that we worked on, we reduced our timeline by over 12 years. And so we've significantly changed it because of these timing strategies. And part of that was because of the fact that we optimized the cash flow system. We learned how to use cash better. Like Tonya had referenced before, we learned about when to pay for things, how to pay for things, how to look at this passive income strategy and then utilize that for budgetary items that then helps us speed ourselves up. All these things then get integrated to really maximize results. And although some of these things even might sound like buzzwords, they actually work. That's what's incredible about it. Like this system works. It actually speeds people up. It actually creates passive income. One of my favorite things to do when I work with clients now is to see the relief on their face as they integrate the system and then to start to see, oh, like I can pay for this quicker. I can't believe how quickly this is building and seeing some of the results of how the system works for them.
Yeah. I have to agree. When I first joined as a client in 2017, I was given a 20 some year timeline to reach to say what I wanted to reach. In the first 2 years, we cut that down to 8 years and then accomplished those metrics within a 5 year time frame. Just because as you grow to understand what you're doing, you understand better what your options are, you understand better how to use it and how to make it work for you. And you learn to work the system, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, bear with me 1 second. Okay. What do we hear most common from Tardus clients? It really is, I wish I had started sooner. Again, we work with people from fresh out of high school, fresh out of college that have a little bit of cash flow or a lot of cash flow at that point in life, to those who are already retired that need to reallocate because their funds are not going to get them there. And that's a hard pill to swallow, right? To say, oh, I hope I don't outlive what I've worked my whole life to set aside. So in a year, you can use 1,500 a month in cash flow. These are very generic numbers. Within the first year, generate about $850 a month in additional cash flow. If we look at those same numbers at about the 3 year point, you're at about $3,500 in additional monthly cash flow. I don't know any other system, and trust me, I didn't stop looking for the best solution after I found Tardus in 2017, but I don't know any other system that does that and makes it so accessible. I saw my mom is on the call. Hi, Mom. I know she will vouch for that as well, being able to use the system into retirement. She also has been a client since 2017. So Adam was going to give us a quick tour on the calculator. Adam, I think I have to stop sharing my screen first.
Yeah. Okay, great. I will share mine. Okay. Bear with me here for a second. Okay. So this is I'll wait till my screen comes up and not talk before. Okay. So our this is our income snowball calculator. This is what we were talking about before. So for those of you that are like spreadsheet or math people, your souls will be felt here. And if you're not, that's actually okay, because I'm going to walk through it with you either way. But what I like to do in walking people through this is just to kind of give them a little bit of a tutorial of basically what is it going to look like when we build out your plan. And what'll happen is in your initial meeting with your coach, you'll build out a preliminary plan with your wealth coach, with somebody that's in the position that I'm in. But then you'll actually go into a deeper dive with your financial coach as well. But I want to just go through some illustrations to show you how the system works. So let's just say you have a starting monthly income of about $6,500. And then you also have a starting monthly expenses of about $5,000. So essentially, that basically makes your cash flow $1,500. The starting monthly expenses, for example, could be your mortgage, your car payment, any debt that you have, um, groceries, kids' activities, whatever the case may be. So as a result, this $1,500 cash flow basically goes into what we assume that you'll commit to the system. You'll be able to dedicate to the system each month. Now, granted, this number, I always like to tell people this, is completely up to you. You'll never get pressure from one of us saying, we really need you to do 2,500 or we really need you to do 1,500. It's really up to you where you get started for how the system works. What I like to say is the system is a cash in, cash out system. So the more cash you're able to put in, the more cash that comes back out to you, right? And again, we're agnostic to what you put in, but we obviously want you to reach your goals. So all that being said, here's how the system works. So here's your income expenses, your living expenses. And so here's your first investment. So your first investment here is $7,500. So you're going to do your first investment on October 1st, right? In this example. So basically what will happen is you're going to go to your line of credit, your personal line of credit, your home equity line of credit, your insurance policy, and you're going to get that $7,500. And you're going to place that in typically one of our 3-year amortized principal and interest mortgage or principal interest loans, excuse me, investments. And so our 3-year principal and interest amortized investments, what does that mean? It basically means that every month you're getting paid back principal and interest on your investment. So in this example here, that would give you $235 for 3 years. And so you basically, within month one, you've started to create passive income. Congratulations. That's great. And this isn't an anomaly. This happens to our clients all the time. And we assume a rate of return of 8%. And obviously different investments can fluctuate, but that's basically the typical rate of return that we expect from the investments that we have. So from there, what's going to happen? You have the $7,500 leverage, not debt, that you've taken out, and you have $1,500 in your budget. And now, just as a reminder, you're getting $235 a month. So you're going to take your $1,500 plus the $235 that you now have coming in a month, and you're going to pay that $7,500 down in 1, 2, 3, 4, actually like 4.5 months, right? So you're going to be a little bit ahead. But the great news is that now your leverage that you took out is 0, but you have $235 coming to you for the next 36 months, this whole span of time. So what do? You go back and you get the same loan again, another $7,500. So remember, your balance is at 0, goes back to 7,500. We put it into another investment, another $235 worth of income, another rate of return of 8%. So now you're getting $470 a month. Great news. So, but if you'll notice, you actually pay this one off quicker. Why is that? Well, your commitment didn't change, right? It's because of the fact that your passive income has increased from 235 to 470. So again, do that in 4 months. We do the same thing over again. 7,500, and now we went from 470 to now you're making 705, $705 a month, and so on and so forth. And now by the first year, you're making over $1,000 in passive income with basically just your $1,500 commitment. And this continues to grow. So I'm going to pause there for a second just to say that What happens in the first few years of this is that things build somewhat slow. I still think it was exciting, but now that I'm several years into it, but the neat thing about it is that I'm now on my 18th or 19th time doing this, and it takes for you to go 19 times or several times before you get to a point where you really get to see the growth. But I'm going to show you exactly what that looks like. So the other thing that I like to show people is really what does the schedule look like from this perspective? Because there's a couple powerful things here. So this is the same thing I showed you up there. October, you make the $7,500 investment. 5 months later, you pay it off and you do the same thing again. Now you've got $470 a month coming in. Here's where your investment is. Here's where your line of credit is. And you'll notice that you pay it off a little bit quicker. You pay it off a little bit quicker. You pay it off a little bit quicker. And eventually what happens is that you're paying this so quickly that the calculator says, oh, well, they're paying it off too quickly. We actually need to increase their leverage. Now, keep in mind, again, you don't have to, you're not contributing any more than your $1,500 in this example. But what's happening is that your passive income is jumping, right? And so that's what's making you pay it off quicker. And that's what's increasing your leverage so that you can continue to build it. So that is very powerful. So one of the things that you may be asking yourself is, gosh, well, how long is this going to take me to get to my goal? One of the things I like to tell people here is it's not necessarily just about the destination. One of my favorite things about this system is the journey. And what makes the journey powerful is, let's just use July of 27, for example. So you're less than 2 years away. And at this stage here, you're creating over $3,000 a month in passive income. So let's just say that you decide you want to take your whole family to Disneyland, or you decide you want to do a minor remodel to your bathroom, or whatever the case may be. No longer do you have to go and get money out of a savings account or save up for it and go do that. You can actually do it with the passive income you have and really just move yourself out 1 month, right? You may delay what we call a flip or your next investment by 1 month because you now have significant passive income coming in. So as a personal example, my family and I, we went to Spain this summer. I used the great cash flow that I have from this system to pay for that trip to Spain. I didn't have to go into my savings or sell any stock or do any of that. And literally it delayed my flip less than a month, my next investment. And so that's where this system becomes super powerful. The other thing that's powerful is for those of you that are paying for kids' private schools or paying for California property taxes or whatever the case may be, those large dollar amounts can now be paid through the system, which will free up cash flow for you to utilize for the system to actually move faster. It's amazing how it works. So I will stop there. You probably can tell, I can keep going, but the system does really well. The last thing that I want to show you before Tonya cuts me off is how the cash flow works. So in your first year, let's just go out 1 year from now, you've already built up in this generated by system $940 a month of passive income in 1 year. And you'll notice your investment commitment of $1,500. That doesn't change. But then let's go 2 years out. In 2 years, you've built a system, you've actually superseded your investment commitment, and now you have $1,860 that is just generated by the system. 3 years out, you're at 3,584. That number's doubled. And obviously, as you can imagine, this continues to increase. Let's just go to 5 years out for fun. So in 5 years, you've created over $6,000 a month in passive income. Pretty miraculous. And then just for fun, let's go to 10 years. So in 10 years, you've created $16,600 a month in passive income. So as you can see, not only is this system powerful, but one of the things that Tonya said earlier is so important to consider here, which is most of our clients actually achieve their goals more quickly than the calculator tells you at first. If you remember, I told you that our first timeline was 2042. But once you learn from your coach some of the tricks of creating cash flow and actually improving the system, you actually move much quicker than initially what the calculator would say because of the fact that you learn how to use the cash flow system better. So hopefully that helps give you an introduction to what the calculator looks like. as we referenced before, you'll make a personalized version of this with your wealth coach, and then you'll actually fine tune this with your financial coach whenever you're meeting with them, that which is called your client success coach. So Tanya, I think that that covers it, but anything I missed that you'd mention?
No, I think you did a fantastic job.
Great.
I'm gonna click through just a couple more things. And we're gonna
Okay,
open it up for questions because I have no doubt that Adam prompted a bunch of questions.
great. I stopped sharing, so the floor is yours.
All right. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Again, right, the most common statement that we do hear from people is, I wish I had started sooner. When I came to Tardus, it all made sense. I saw the roadmap to reaching my goals. Every step of it made sense. Let's see. So if you're ready to build your roadmap, that's exactly what you end up with. You end up with a support network to carry it out. You end up with a map that ebbs and flows with every life decision as needed. And you have a system to follow to actually get you there that's patented, that we've been building on success for over 8,000 clients for 22 years now. So we're going to open it up to some questions. These are questions that I would ask you, right? What happens if you put off your financial plan? What's stopping you from getting clarity, from really understanding what it takes to reach your goals? What happens if you do nothing? What will 5 years from now look like? And what does that cost you, right? In terms of a timeline in life, in terms of stress, in terms of understanding. You can scan this QR code. This is for booking a strategy session. You'll be connected to a wealth coach like Adam, or somebody else that's on our team. So you can scan this QR code. You can go directly to tardus.com, click on the link that says book a strategy session, but we're going to open it up. I saw a bunch of questions come in. Adam, do you have anything else you want to throw out there before we start answering questions?
No, I'm looking forward to hearing what our friends have to ask. Yes.
Okay. I will start with what's in the questions. Let's see. Bradley says, can you invest 50K and not do a monthly commitment? Let me clarify. Instead of using a line of credit, you can use your own 50K. We have many clients that start with their own funds. When's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. When's the second best time? It's today. You can start with your own funds if that's what you have today. In time, right? If you see the value of that added momentum that you can get from using leverage that boosts people to, really to a whole nother level, then that's a viable option for you. A pivotal concept that we apply is making sure that everything is well diversified. So you would not, Bradley, you would not take that 50K and just dump it into an investment. You would layer it in, you would roll it in, because in the long run, the cash flow generated is going to be far more beneficial than if you do a one-time dump, if that makes sense. And a wealth coach will walk you through exactly the best way to structure that for your greatest benefit. Do you see the questions, Adam?
Are they in the Q&A?
There's some in the Q&A. I saw some in the chat.
Okay. Maybe should I look in one and you look in the other?
Sure, sure.
Okay. All right.
Somebody
Okay.
says, is 8% current rate of return? Let's see, in today's environment. Yes, everything Adam showed you is conservatively structured. We see clients that end up with 8% we see clients that end up with a higher percent, but the return on investment that you're looking at is it's so minute because of the types of assets that you're investing in. If you look at your cash produced from a 4% to a 10% return investment, and you span that over that amortization period, let's see. Thank you for cutting the mic, whoever that was. Um, over that amortization period, the cash flow produced is so very minute. But yes, we definitely see 8%.
Yep, great question. I'll take one from the Q&A as well. So it says, so if I understand correctly, this is Darius. You're using the 1,500 to pay off the initial and then consecutive loans. You're absolutely right. So if you think about this, that example we went through where you have a $7,500 loan, you're taking your 1,500 that you're contributing each month, plus the opportunity to take the passive income that you're making. In that case, it started at $235, and you're paying down that line of credit each time. One of the things that I want to emphasize that we showed as things progress, your passive income continues to grow. Your $1,500 commitment never changes, right? In that example, it's basically just the system working on top of that to where you can start to pay that off more quickly, continuing to contribute your 1,500, but the system on top of that contributing more and more passive income so that your snowball grows without more contribution from you. So hopefully that answers your question, Darius, but good question.
So Hannah, you just started with Tardus. Congratulations. Welcome. 2.5 weeks ago, how do you find short-term amortized investments? Where do you go? Talk to your client success coach, right? First, they're going to walk you through your criteria because investments are so subjective. What needs to be your criteria is different than what needs to be my criteria, is different than, I mean, Hannah, I don't know how old you are, but is different than somebody who's 70 and investing, somebody who's just beginning. So your client success coach is going to help you pick your best options. If you already know of some, bring them to your meeting. Your client success coach will walk you through, right? We don't have limitations on what you can invest in. We'll walk you through the criteria, whether it's something that we connect you with or something that you find on your own. So that would be my encouragement there.
Ellis asked a great question, which is, have there been any investments, aka syndicated offerings, that have defaulted or severely underperformed projected returns? So in general, I like to talk about what's really important in the investment philosophy that we use. So our goal is to invest in different opportunities that create consistent monthly income for you, right? So that whether that's and we've found that through multiple different financial means. So this can be, like we could do it through potentially looking at bridge loans or peer-to-peer lending or mortgage notes or even market-based opportunities. But in the end, our goal, I always like to use the analogy, we're never looking to hit home runs, right? We don't look for something that has a 20% return that as a result is going to have a ton of volatility, right? We are looking for that consistent, 8, 9% return where you're going to be able to see you're hitting singles and doubles. But the most important thing is that you're getting that income every month. And so as a result of that, you get your income and can either pay your line of credit or utilize that income for what you want. If there's a lot of volatility in the system, it doesn't work well. So I guess that was a long answer to your short question, Ellis. But the goal there really is, have we had investments that have underperformed? Absolutely. There have been times where investments underperform. Our goal is that within the investments that you're using, that they're very diversified. And so let's use the mortgage note example. Let's say that, Johnny out in Alabama is not paying his mortgage. The goal from that mortgage note investment is actually that you're not just invested in one mortgage note, but you're invested in hundreds. Or if Sam got a bridge loan out in Wisconsin and he isn't able to sell that house. You're not invested in one bridge loan, but you're invested in hundreds. And the way that you do that is working more across funds than across singular investments. And as a result, when you do have one loan that doesn't perform, you're not negatively affected. So you still get a very good average rate of return. So those are the type of investments that we look for, that we vet as a company to look for. And then we also provide you the coaching and due diligence to vet them yourself. So you feel like you're making the best decision for yourself as a client as well.
Yes. Okay, Garland, you asked where the funds coming from to pay off the loan. I'm seeing 235. That's the number that we're talking about when Adam was showing that 1,500. We discussed 1,500 in monthly cash flow. That's what goes to replenish that leverage. It's as simple as that. Leverage purchases assets. Assets produce cash flow. Your cash flow pays back the leverage. So at the end, let's look at that first cycle, right? 4 or 5 months in. The only thing you've actually put into investing is that 1,500 a month, and how much you're still walking away with in terms of assets and how much cash flow they're continuing to produce. Does that make sense? Let's see, what about interest on the line of credit? Yes, this is effectively trying to find arbitrage on interest. This is not interest arbitrage. Interest arbitrage would be if I go and get a car loan, I go and get a loan at 4%. I'm paying 4%, okay, interest on that loan. Now I go and purchase something that's earning 6%. Now I'm talking about interest arbitrage because I'm looking at that 2% interest discrepancy. This is very, very different. We're looking at simple interest on a line of credit and amortized interest. So think of that car loan that it's stacked in the front with all interest, almost all interest that you're getting paid back. So interest arbitrage is same kinds of interest where you're building a system that's built, that's trying to compare apples to bananas, right? They're very different creatures. They function very differently. A simple interest is calculated based on that 7,500, okay? If we're to get in the nitty gritty, that 7,500, let's say it's at a line of credit, even at 10%, okay? At 10% interest, that's $750 annually. So that's $62, right? In month one. But now look, we're gonna put 1,500 and that 235 towards that. And now we've brought that balance down to 5,800, okay? Now we're only paying interest on that. We rinse and repeat the cycle, meaning our cash flow continues to grow, but that interest cycle is on a short-term repeat.
Yeah, that's a really important point. Maybe just to even emphasize it more is even if you think about why this situation works, even with a higher interest solution that you're borrowing from, whether it's a line of credit, a home equity line of credit, even a credit card, for example, why it works so well is because the cash that you actually have out on loan the ideal time frame is kind of in the 3 to 5 month period. That's really how we see these investments get paid off. That's how the system works. And so you're paying only a fraction of the APR at any given time, like Tonya highlighted, and only a portion of actually the total balance because you're paying it off as you go. So your actual interest expense is very low in the system. So I think Tonya, you said it well. I just wanted to reemphasize that.
Let's see, Sorcha? I'm sorry if I mispronounce your name. So if this is is this private lending? Where do you typically do that, and what is the default rate? Okay, it could be private lending. There is a lot of options that fit into this category or that you can structure to repeat the same kind of essentially structuring of an investment. So it could be private lending, it could be peer-to-peer lending, it could be bridge loans, as Adam discussed. It could be within a fund that you structure as amortized payback. There's a lot of options that fit here. Go through which ones fit the best for you, for what you need to meet the metrics of your strategy, what you need for your due diligence for your own criteria.
Yeah.
And you asked what, oh, sorry, you asked what are the default rates? So if I were to look at, if I were to go on, Prosper is a very common peer-to-peer site. If I were to look at Prosper, the return, it's usually around 8% that they advertise. The return that they advertise on there accounts for any default rate.
Yep. And the only thing that I would add there is um, when choosing an investment, your coach is going to walk you through and say, "Hey, we've had over 8,000 clients. Here are some of the investments that have worked best for our clients." We always like to say we are investment agnostic in the end, meaning that we don't get any kickback from any vendors. We don't take any money from them. Our goal is completely and utterly we're dedicated to you as our clients. And so, but as a result of that, we want you to be successful. But if you decide, hey, like I don't believe in this diversification thing. I'm putting all my money on Tesla, which Tesla's been a great investment and not a great investment, depending on when you got in. You can do that. That's not necessarily what we would advise. So I think, just to reiterate what Tanya was saying, our goal is for you to have investments that pay consistently, that are diversified. But in the end, that decision of where you invest is 100% yours.
Okay, Stuart, you have some credit card debt. Can I use some cash flow to pay it off along the way? Yes, 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 please do. One thing that many people who come to us, right, they have used methodologies to pay down debt. I'll use an example. Somebody that I met with a couple of years ago, they had put everything they had to pay off their home. They had a $500,000 home, right? No debt. They're in their late 50s and desperately hoping to retire 3 years later. And they had no income outside of what they were expecting to come from Social Security because everything they had went towards paying off that debt. Okay. In contrast, you can pay off debt same time frame or faster using a similar method. But when you get your debt paid off, you'll already have thousands, literally thousands in additional monthly cash flow coming in. So not only did you accomplish the same thing, you kicked off the starting gun with all this cash flow to already be pre-prepped for that retirement. So yes, use the system to pay off debt and generate income simultaneously. And the income you generate helps you pay off the debt even faster.
Yes.
You want to take one, Adam?
Sure. Let's see. So we talked about the type of investments at some level. Um, Okay, so sorry, I'm not clear. Does Tardus do the investing for us or do we do our own investing? Great question. So again, our role is as a coaching and education company, so we're not actually doing any of the investing for you. What we will do is we're first going to completely and totally understand your financial situation. So our goal is not just to understand how can we build you passive income, but ignore the rest of everything that's going on in your life. Like Tanya said, we have tons of people that come to us that have debt that they'd like to have addressed. We love addressing debt with people and walking through the most intelligent way to pay off that debt or not pay off that debt, depending on what the debt is. And then we're going to coach you through the best way to get the exact right amount of leverage to place those investments. When it comes to making those investments, we will make introductions to different vendors that we work directly with once you've made a decision of how you want to invest. So we have those relationships with those vendors. We'll make those introductions for you once you make those decisions. But again, in the end, it is completely up to you how you decide to invest. We're going to provide you the guidance. So what I'd like to tell people is some clients love to do all of their own research. give me a list. I'll figure it out on my own. Some clients want very heavy direction. The good news is our coaches are fantastic at both. So whatever it is that you need in the interim of those two pendulums, we can help you with. And so that's basically how our investments go. But we don't touch any of your money, which as somebody who now is a part of this, I'm very glad. But in the end, the system still works extremely well.
Yeah. And it gives you control of your own money
Yep.
any and at all times. You're not waiting to be at the mercy of somebody else when you decide to use your money, need to use your money. It's in your control. Bradley, you said, wouldn't it give you a jump start? I'm thinking we're referring to that 50K. Yes, yes, you can definitely front load a strategy. But if we're going for anything beyond a couple of years, there's a couple of different methods in which you would put that front loading in. Some are more beneficial than others. So we actually calculate that out, right? Because again, we're going for biggest payoff short term as well as long term. And we want to make sure that both of those, we're meeting that as best we possibly can so that you have the best options available to you.
Yep. One of the questions in here, Tanya, is a good one. Is Tardus sell or remarket the information that they gather from us? Is our information a profit center for Tardus?
Not in any way, shape, or form. Nope. It's kept internally, and we don't sell it, we don't share it um, in any way. Yeah. And certainly not any, right? Your financial information, all information is discussed with your coach on your meeting, right? We actually have a disclaimer, don't send us any documents. Don't send us your financial documents that have your account numbers. We don't want them. Okay. We're going to talk about these numbers. We're going to talk about how they apply to you in a meeting so that both sides, right, the coach side and the client side, we have the best understanding of how to use them to your greatest advantage. Let's see. My son is 23, 9 months into his first job. What's the minimum monthly cash flow required to get started for someone like my son? So I'll throw out there that my oldest started his snowball when he was 16, obviously under some degree of parental supervision at 16 with limitations on investment accounts. That being said, it takes some monthly cash flow. 500 is a really great starting point. Somebody really needs some options. We definitely look at less than that, but 500 really is a solid starting point. Would
Yep.
you view that differently, Adam?
Nope. Yeah, I think 500 is a really great place to start. Um, and Tanya flashed up this slide earlier, which I do love. And I say this often, like if I could have gotten started sooner, I wish that I would have. I mean, I don't know actually how it was possible for me because it was pretty quick, but we have many families at Tardus as members, right? Where we've had mom and dad sign up and then the kids sign up because of the fact. And just to see, and we have a young couple that my wife and I do some mentorship with that are in their 20s now. And for those of you that have kids now and remember what it was like to not have kids and not have their expenses, the trajectory of the life that they are going to be at by the time that they reach my age of 45 is going to be very different than where we are today because of the fact that they got started so early. So if you do have young people in your life that you think would benefit from the system, please also send them our way. We would love to work with them. And
Yeah,
that's a great opportunity for them to start a snowball early.
yeah, it is. Um, can this work if I don't have monthly cash flow but have a large sum of savings? Yes, it sure can. We look at kind of repurposing it like a artificial monthly cash flow. I spoke on that a little more extensively earlier. So, right, again, we're going for meeting short-term goals, realistic life decisions, as well as long-term goals. Adam Bryan's asking, what's the difference between short-term and long-term, or fast-burning fuel and slow-burning fuel?
Yeah, great question. So fast burning fuel are those typically 3-year amortized principal and interest investments that we were talking about. So basically, the idea is that it's going to pay you consistently over that 3-year period. Some of them can be even a little quicker, some can be 2, they can even go out to 4 or 5. But basically the idea is that there's momentum that gets built by you getting principal and interest back. That's really how you get your snowball to take off. At some point, some clients decide, hey, I like the fast burning fuel thing, but I also would like to have some more permanent assets. And that's where the slow burning fuel comes in. And so examples of slow burning fuel could be real estate, is a slow burning fuel. That's a more permanent asset, more than likely has less cash flow month to month, but you'll have it essentially forever. Another example could be like buying individual mortgage notes, where you'll have them forever. I have insurance policies. Insurance is actually a nice slow burning fuel option. So the idea is, depending upon where you are in your financial journey, is when and where or if we actually need to insert slow burning fuel into it. Some people come to us with lots of slow burning fuel already and are saying, I just want passive income, and they've got the slow burning fuel already set up. Some people are like, I actually, need fast burning fuel, but I eventually want to transition there. And the great news is, our goal is to graduate you as a client, right? Our goal isn't that you stick around in this cycle forever. So our coaches are trained to know, hey, at what point you're on the fast burning fuel cycle, we review your goals, you're meeting consistently, and then at what point should we transition you to slow burning fuel? And can your snowball sustain it? Because if you think about it, moving from fast burning fuel to slow burning fuel will actually change your income, because of the fact that maybe it's not producing as much passive income. So the training is there, the coaches are well received there, and that would be the difference between those.
Tracy, I think you asked a fantastic question. What does success look like with your program? Right? I I would ask you, how do you define success? To you, what does financial success mean? When you meet with a wealth coach, they are going to ask you that. Like, what metrics do we need to be hitting, and by when, and how do we best to do that? Because success, right? What I wanted to do with my snowball is likely different than what you would want to do with a snowball, which is going to be different than how our long-term goals lay out, which is why everybody gets their individual roadmap. There really are no two alike. So what does success look like? I would say common success, generating regular, predictable monthly cash flow, a strategy that can cover the ebbs and flows of life, allow you to take a discount on life expenses, required or not, car repairs or appliance repairs or remodels or family vacations, and also be scaling for your long-term goals, whether that's retirement at 65 or 40 or whatever you want that to look like.
Yep. And Darius
What
asked a
would you
really
add
great
to that, Adam?
question that I wanted to hit really quick, which is, are the gains considered ordinary income for tax purposes? So the way that basically, when you make your investments at the end of the year, you're going to get a 1099 INT, essentially. The one thing that I think is really important for this strategy to consider when thinking about kind of how this is taxed is that, because of the fact that, especially in your first few, if not several years, you're investing in principal, you're getting principal and interest back. The expense that you're actually getting back, or the 1099 you're going to get back, is just interest only. So if you're making $10,000 a month, for example, at a 10% interest rate, right? $1,000 of that a month is really all that you would have been taxed on, right? So for my wife and I, for example, we have not seen huge interest expense from this strategy, because of the fact that in the first few years you're building, but it is considered income from that perspective. Great question.
Yeah. All right. This brings us to the end of our hour. I am dropping my email, Tonya.leslie@tardus.com. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you have additional questions. I can connect you with Adam. I can connect you with me. I'm the Wealth Coach Manager at Tardus. You can scan this here QR code. You can schedule with one of the wealth coaches on our team. and I didn't hit send. Sorry, I hit send. My email is in the chat right now. So please feel free to reach out. Any additional questions? Yeah. Oh, Tardus.com also. Thank you, Cynthia. Yes, go to Tardus.com also. Thank you guys for coming today. It's such a pleasure to do these. Adam, it's always fun.
Yes. Yep. Wonderful to be
So,
with everybody. Such great questions. We really appreciate everybody's engagement and look forward to talking to you again soon.
yeah. Yeah. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.